Radha Govinda Ki Nitalila Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Bhai Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nitalila Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Nitalila Vishnupad Paramahansa Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj Ki Dalila Vishnupada Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Dalila Vishnupada Paramahansa Pararacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Jagat Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Mahabhavat Srila Kishore Babaji Maharaj Ki Sapta Goswami Sachit Ananda Srila Bhakti Thakur Ki Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Janatas Bhakti Ki Jai Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Namacharya Shahaidas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Mama Devi Ki Jai Mama Devi Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Braj Dham Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vrinda Ki Jai. There, now it's Samagata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Dai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol 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 Gauranga Gauranga Gauranga. Okay. Gurve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Can you hand me that mic? I'm going to see if this is different. Om Agya. No, it's off. Om Agya. See, this is much louder. Should we change the mics?
I think so, Maharaj, because maybe the mic is the one that is not.
Okay.
Because this one is full on, like
right.
All of it. Try to see.
Hold it.
So, yeah.
Let me turn it off. Okay. Okay. Haribol. Okay, it's on. There. Gauranga. Jai Gaur, Jai Nitai. Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's too much echo. There's some echo in it. Haribol. We always have to adjust to the environment. Proper adjustment. Is it a little too loud? Too loud. Gauranga, Gaur Hari, Gaur Chandra, Gaur Nitai, Gaura 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 Gaura. Haribol. Yeah, there's something like too loud or something.
Too loud?
Yeah. Haribol, Haribol, Hare
now it's too low. So somewhere in between there. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. A little bit louder. Hare Hare, Hare Bol. Okay. That's good. Sorry for the microphone delay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahabhadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauda Tishe Namaha. Nityanandam Namastubhyam Prem Ananda Pradayane Kalo Kalamashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha. Ajanulambita Pujo Kanakavadato Samkirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Shrimad Ratnagar Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshta Libhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambhi Vam Shivata Tatakstitaha Karshana Venu Swanayar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare first of all, I offer my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatarasata, Sri Srila, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. And especially I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to our Prayojan Tattvacharya, Sri Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad, and his book Sri Vilapa-kusumanjali. Jagolini, could you check if he put the fan on in there? He's got a fan. Yeah, turn it off. I've told him many times. Put the fan. So, yesterday,
You want it on, Maharaj, or?
off the fan. Yes. So, we came up to verse 23 yesterday, which had a somewhat lengthy purport, and we're going to complete the last section of that today and then move on to the next verse. So I'm chanting verse 23 again. Prakshalya pada kamalam taranukramena goshtendra sunu dayate tavakesha pasham ha narmada gratita sundara sukshma malyair venim karishyati kada pranayayar janoyam. O beloved of the Prince of Braja, when, after washing your lotus feet, will this person, with the many beautiful small garlands artistically fashioned by the florist girl Narmada, lovingly braid your hair? We can repeat. Prakshalya pada kamalam tad anukramena goshtendra sunu dayate tavakesha pasham ha narmada gratita sundara sukshma malyayar venim kadishyati kada pranayayar janoyam. Where's the word when in this verse? Kada. When? In the last line. Venum karishyati kada pranayayar janoyam. So, I'm just reading a little bit of the commentary before we get up to the point where we left off yesterday. So after Tulsi Manjari has helped to dress Srimati Radhika, she wants to dry and decorate her hair. Taking a smooth cloth, she wraps it around Radhika's hair and gently squeezes out all the water. Narmada Devi is the daughter of a gardener, and she has made some very thin but exquisite garlands. Tulsimanjari is praying, when will I be fortunate enough to decorate your hair with these garlands? I'm just remembering some mood that Srila Gurudev used to show regarding garlands. And sometimes when he was in a place which was tropical, particularly in Hawaii, where he would go for his morning walk, there was a tree that showered down these very small but extremely fragrant flowers. I don't remember what the name of them are. They would actually pick them up from the ground and they would string a garland. So the pure devotee, the Mahabhagavat, he is always in these internal moods of serving, especially when Gurudev would go on his morning walk. Although he's a little bit interacting externally, but mostly he's internal. Gurudev himself told that. And his meditations are in the Leela, okay? Just like one time when Gurudev came to San Francisco, the first or the second year, perhaps it was it was the second year. And they rented some hall, which was near to a bowling alley, and there was a big parking lot there. It was in Walnut Creek. So when we were all waiting with the kirtan in the parking lot, and there were so many people getting out of their cars and looking, who are these people? And then when Gurudev's car came, then he came out of his car and we momentarily stopped the kirtan and greeted Srila Gurudev before he went into the building. So we had to walk with Gurudev from there across the parking lot to go into the building. And so, I think it was actually he already walked with us, but then he stopped before he went into the building. And he said, all these people that are watching our group, they see, that there is this old Indian man who is walking across a parking lot. But actually they do not know that I am walking to the Yamuna with golden pots to bring water for Srimati Radhika and her bath. So this is the meditation of our Mahabhagavad Vaishnavas. They don't show that externally. So regarding the garland, here it says very fine, very small, beautiful small garlands, very artistically fashioned by the florist girl Narmada. When will I lovingly braid your hair, O Srimati Radhika, the beloved of the Prince of Braja? So, like I was saying, Gurudev liked to have these very small, thin garland. And even when he would be sitting on a Vyasasana and so many garlands were being placed on him, he would take all of them off, but he'd leave one small garland, like that. So while composing these verses, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, being in external consciousness, he would always be weeping in separation, but when he became absorbed in his Siddha Swarup as Tulsimanjari, he became overjoyed. A devotee who has greed and who feels this separation will be able to taste these verses. But those who do not feel separation cannot realize the deep sentiments within these verses. When we hear and read these verses, we should identify ourselves as followers of Raghunath Das Goswami and try to make our hearts one with his. Then we can have taste. And when he returned to his external senses, he would weep very loudly while lying on the banks of Radhakund and cry out, "Oh, Srimati Radhike, I am so wretched, I have no qualification for your service. Will that day ever come when you will bestow your mercy upon me?" So, a sadhaka realizes that he is not qualified for these higher topics. He realizes that. But if he has greed, still he cannot stop hearing and reading them. There is a longing. Oh, when will I have this thing? A sadhak should have great eagerness to chant Harinam, remember Krishna, and perform all devotional activities. You should have what? Great eagerness. Eagerness. Now, Gurudev is referring to the third verse of Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami has stated, Utsaha Nishchayad Dhairyat. That verse. So the first word, he has used the word Utsaha. What is the meaning of Utsaha? Enthusiasm. And it also corresponds with this, with greed. But Utsahan is enthusiasm. And Gurudev is saying if one does not have great eagerness, Utsahan, to perform Vaidhi Bhakti, then what hope is there that he will be able to follow Raganuga Bhakti? If he doesn't have for Vaidhi Bhakti, then what hope can there be for Raganuga Bhakti? No hope. So, without great eagerness, one will not be able to enter even 1 inch into Raganuga Bhakti. So, what do we need? Utsaha. We should have this great eagerness in whatever limb of bhakti we are engaged in. Chanting, remembering, performing any seva. And where there is this eagerness, there will also be humility. That's part and parcel of this eagerness. Yet, Rupa Goswami and others say they don't have hope. They say that, oh, I will have this. They declare this. Rupa Goswami writes in the Stavamala Tribhangi Panchakam. I read this verse yesterday, but I'm reading it again. Rupa Goswami is telling, Prachinanam bhajanam atulam duskaram shrinvato me nairashyena jvalati hridayam bhakti lesha lasasya vishvadrichim agahara tava karunya vichim asha bindukshitam idam upetyantare hanta shaityam. So here Rupa Goswami is praying to Krishna as the slayer of Aghasura. O slayer of Aghasura, the destroyer of sins. So why is Krishna's name Aghasura, slayer of Aghasura? Why is he saying the destroyer of sins? It's in parentheses, but actually that's what he's referring to. Because Rupa Goswami is putting forward that he has a hopeless condition when he remembers all the great Vaishnavas that have lived and done such extreme austerities and, in their bhajan. So he's saying, when I hear of the extreme, difficult sadhana and bhajan performed by great devotees like Shuka and Maharaj Ambarish in the previous times, then my heart, which is devoid of any tinge of devotion, it becomes afflicted. My heart becomes afflicted with remorse and with hopelessness, because such difficult sadhana will never be possible for me. Is that our position? If Rupa Goswami is even saying, what to speak of us? Thus, I feel that I will never be able to obtain your lotus feet. But there's some ray of hope. And what is that? He says, when I see the waves of mercy that you have spread everywhere, from Brahma down to the most degraded sinners, right? Krishna does that, doesn't he? Why we call him Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandho. So Rupa Goswami is saying, yes, it's a fact. I'll never be able to do like that. And knowing that fact, that I cannot do that kind of extreme sadhana and bhajan like they did, these great personalities, my heart is afflicted with hopelessness because it will never be possible for me. But when I see the waves of mercy you have spread everywhere from Brahma down to the most degraded sinners, then my heart becomes pacified again and instilled with sunshine ray of hope. That's in his verse. Yes. Karunya Vicham, Gurudev mentions this. Karunya Vicham means waves of Karunya. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have read how Kashyapa Muni, Kashyapa Rishi, and Aditi performed such severe austerities. It's there in the Bhagavatam. What were they doing austerities for? You remember?
A son.
Yes, they wanted to have a son. So for thousands of years, while standing on their heads, they did not eat or drink anything, and ultimately they stopped breathing as well. So it's not only Dhruva Maharaj who did that extreme, and he only did it for 6 months. So then Lord Narayan appeared before them, and he asked them, "What do you desire?" And they replied, "We desire a son like you. We desire a son like you." And then they said it a third time, "We desire a son like you." 3 times they prayed. So Lord Narayan answered, "Since there is no one like me, I myself will have to become your son. And because you have asked 3 times, for 3 births I will be your son." Therefore he came as Vamanadev in that birth, then in their birth as Prishni and Sutapa. Then he became Prishni Garbha. And then he came lastly in their birth as who? Yes, Devaki and Vasudeva. They had those 3 births. So devotees, like Dhruva Maharaj, they also performed severe austerities. Narad Rishi performed severe austerities for 7,000 years and then received only a brief darshan of Narayan. When Narayan vanished, Narada began to cry. And then a voice from the sky said, "You cannot see me with these material eyes. While seeking me, you should go through the whole world, traveling everywhere, singing about me, chanting my name and remembering me. One day, your body made of prarabdha karma will vanish, and then I will be visible to you forever." This is Narada. But somewhere, Gurudev is saying, somewhere he has described that this is the mercy of Narayan. Narayan wanted to instill some special eagerness within Narada Rishi by vanishing. He wanted to increase Narad's desire to see him. Without this eagerness, which is our position, without this eagerness, Bhagavan cannot be attained. And this eagerness brings the qualification to attain Bhagavan. The gopis, they're so eager for Krishna that when he merely blew a brief vibration on the flute, they overcame so many difficulties and they met with Krishna in the night. Those who were not so eager amongst the gopis, they were checked by their husbands. So without this eagerness, one cannot perform bhajan. And when this eagerness reaches its highest limit, then nothing can check you. We've also heard of Prahlad Maharaj. We've heard of Bilba Mangal Thakur, Rup and Sanatan, and so forth. Rup and Sanatan, they were like princes in their childhood, but they left everything. Only Kopin was there. And no beautiful cloth. Raghunath Das Goswami left everything. Eating, sleeping, all material things. Can we do like that? If we do, what will happen to us? We will die, Gurudev says. True, it's true. We try to do that, we'll die. Now, there's a hope that keeps such a devotee alive, that Rupa Goswami is expressing. Sri Rupa Goswami writes, Prachinanam bhajanam atulam dushkaram shrinvato me. That he has heard how the ancient devotees performed severe austerities. Prachinanam means very ancient, bhajanam. So he has heard how they have performed severe austerities and strict bhajan, but nairashyena jvalati hridayam bhakti leshala sasya. This means his heart is burning because he feels he does not have a touch of genuine renunciation or any qualification whatsoever. What is our position? We are always sunk in material desires. What to speak of raga nuga bhajan? Even those who embody Vaidhi Bhakti exhibited such impressive standards. Prahlad Maharaj's father tried to kill him numerous times, but he was never concerned about it. Rupa Goswami says, because I have no bhakti, my heart is burning. So then there's a little back and forth conversation. Gurudev says, if someone says to him, to Rupa Goswami in that condition, what he's praying, how he's praying, then that person says, then you should die. Your heart is burning, you should die. Then Rupa Goswami will reply, I cannot die. Then that person will ask, why? Because I have a little hope. And this hope makes me live in this world. Because I have a little hope, and this hope makes me live in this world. So what is that hope? Vishvadrichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim. Jai Shri Radha Govinda Ki. Then he refers to Krishna as Agha's enemy, or Agahara. Agahara means who has destroyed Aghasura. So the general meaning is the killer of Aga, but there is another meaning. Krishna took the Aga, the sin of Aghasur, by his mercy. He took that sin. Aga means sin. It was in the shape of a serpent. So Brahma prays for darshan of Krishna's feet in his meditation. Brahma does. It's his highest position. He prays for darshan of Krishna's lotus feet. But Aghasura, he was not satisfied with that. Very eagerly he was waiting for Krishna. He is not looking here and there. He was only looking for Krishna. I'd like to find out who Aghasura was in his previous life. Because he's the brother of who? Yeah. And Putana in her previous life?
Was there with Vamana.
She's the sister of who? Yes, of Bali Maharaj. So there must be some similar. I'll have to find out. So yes, Aghasura was very eagerly waiting for Krishna. He is not looking here and there. He was only looking at Krishna. And he wanted to swallow him at once. Then Krishna, who is all giving, he thought, oh, I will fulfill your desires. I will come with all my associates. First, Krishna came into the eyesight of Aghasura. But even after seeing Krishna directly, not merely in meditation, he was so eager that he wanted to swallow Krishna and keep him in his heart. We didn't know that about Aghasura, did we? So Krishna entered Aghasura's mouth with all his cowherd friends and his calves, and then slayed him. Generally, if a snake or any other being dies, there will be an immense odor, but Krishna purified this serpent in such a way that for 1 year its corpse emanated a wonderful fragrance, and the cowherd boys enjoyed many games by continuously entering inside it and hiding and then coming out again. Playground. Now, in his next birth, Aghasura attained salvation, for which Mayavadi sannyasis performed such severe austerity. Of course, their salvation that they're aiming at is Kaivalya, merging. So when, after performing these austerities for thousands or lakhs of years, if these Mayavadi sannyasis are pure and all their senses become completely inactive, they attain salvation. But Aghasura attained salvation in only 1 moment by the mercy of Krishna. And because he was Putana's brother, that was not even Sayujya Mukti that he attained, or impersonal liberation, but rather Sarupya Mukti. Yes. He obtained a form similar to Bhagavan's form. Rupa Goswami says, if even a sinful person, like Aghasura, received the mercy of Krishna, and I am chanting his name, hearing narrations of his pastimes, will Krishna not bestow his mercy upon me? I have heard that his mercy is like a rain shower. Rain falls everywhere and on everyone indiscriminately. Or his mercy could be compared to the waves of the ocean, which come to everyone who stands near the shore. So, I have hope that Krishna's mercy will someday touch me. Asha bin dukshitam idam upetyantare hanta shaityam. That means this hope is keeping me alive. This is my consolation. And for this, I'm waiting and doing bhajan, hoping that one day Krishna will bestow his mercy upon me. So even though others may say that we have so much bhakti, when we analyze it, we can see that we have none. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, and that verse, Na prema gandhosti, We read that yesterday. How even he is expressing that he has no bhakti. He's actually saying that directly in the mood of Srimati Radhika. So we know that Radhika feels like that. She says, "My dear friends, I have not the slightest trace of prema within my heart. And when you see me crying in separation, I am just falsely making a show of my great fortune. Indeed, not seeing the beautiful face of that sportive flute player Krishna, I continue to live my life like an insect without meaning." It's quite extreme, is it not? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressing like this. We have read about his extreme ecstatic conditions for 18 years non-stop in Jagannath Puri. But yet he's feeling na prema gandhosti durapa me adho. He's saying, I don't have even a scent of prema. So Gurudev is saying that actually, we have no bhakti at all. It is very hard to have bhakti. And actually, we have no qualifications to have bhakti. We see that we have so much kam, lust, krodh, anger, lobha, greed, and mada, pride, moha, attachment, matsarya, envy. We see that we have so much of this. We cannot chant with affection and love. It is not in our hands. We can chant something by our tongue, but how to get this love and affection, it's not in our hands. So now is that last paragraph. We've come up to that point. It's good to reread. I mean, it's...
That's amazing.
We read it yesterday, but I'm rereading it. Every time you reread it, it goes deeper. It becomes more thoroughly understood. So, only eagerness, Gurudev is now telling in this last section, only eagerness, that is not sufficient. Only eagerness. So let's see what he has to say about this point. He says, eagerness may be there, but only that it will not do. We will have to go in the process of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami. What will we have to do?
Go into the process of Rupa Raghunath.
Yeah, go into the process. Even if we have eagerness, it's not enough. Then, going into the process of Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, then we can have some bhakti. When we analyze, we see not even a little bhakti is there. Do you think you have any bhakti? Gurudev is asking to the people in front of him. I think that certainly I have no bhakti. My Gurudev has kindly given me his instructions, and we have heard some Katha from his mouth, and now we are giving it as if it is ours. But there is no bhakti at all. We have no taste in chanting, nor in any devotional activities. But still, some hope is there. Gostendra sunu dayate. Srimati Radhika is very near and dear to Krishna. Gostendra sunu dayate. What is Goshta Indra Sunu. Sunu means what? Means son. So Krishna's name is Goshta, Goshtendra. So Goshta means what? Yeah, it means the whole cows, cowherd people, everything. And the Indra is who? The Indra is Nanda Maharaj. Goshtendra. Yeah. He is Nanda Maharaj. And Goshtendra Sunu is Krishna. And Goshtendra Sunu Dayate means who is dear to Goshtendra Sunu. Who's that? Srimati Radhika is very near and dear to Krishna. In Nishanta Lila, or in Nakta Lila, midnight, when Srimati Radhika's hair, dress, and ornamentation is messed up, she rebukes Krishna in a Svadhin Bhartrika mood. You remember that mood? Svadhin Bhartrika. We went over that in this book. Means that she is an independent, like ruler. Svadhin Bhartrika. That she has control over Krishna. Svadhin Bhartrika. So, now she's in the middle of the night and her hair, dress, and ornamentation is messed up. She rebukes Krishna, she rebukes him in a Svadhin Bhartrika mood. Oh, you have messed up my hair. Now it is here and there. You should put it in order. So at once, Tulsi Manjari, Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari enter the kunja with golden plates, with so many pots of fragrant oil, anjana, tilak, and flowers, everything that is needed to redecorate Srimati Radhika. So Krishna takes a comb and takes Srimati Radhika's hair in his hand. Krishna's hands are like blue lotuses, and Radhika's hair is like the flow of the Yamuna. Krishna's soft hand combs her hair, but sometimes when he combs, Radhika says, ah. Then with very soft hands, he puts some fragrant oil in her hair and very smoothly combs it and then decorates it with flowers. Raghunath Das Goswami saw this scene. And when this scene disappeared, he began to weep. Then he prayed to Radhika, Ha Narmada Gratita Sundara Sukshma Malyair. Narmada is the daughter of the gardener, and she makes very good garlands by which I may decorate Srimati Radhika's braid. Pranayayar means with love and affection. This stage of such love and affection comes after man. Sometimes pranay is first, and then man is the next stage. We've heard Gurudev say this before. So with pranay, heartfelt love, he is praying, may I perform this service to you. Gurudev explained that in the sequence of praying, in the development, sometimes these are reversed. Sometimes pranay comes first and man comes after, and sometimes man comes first and pranay comes after. So now with pranay, with heartfelt love, Raghunath Das Goswami is praying, may I perform this service to you. Why? Because once your hair is nicely decorated, then you will go to Yashoda Bhavan. And Krishna will see this, and at once he will be attracted to you. So I want to serve you in this way. Which way? By decorating her hair braid with these beautiful, delicate, small, fragrant garlands made by Narmada. So then Gurudev ends this entire commentary by saying, at first, we should do Vaidhi Bhakti and preach. But eagerly, we should wait for greed to come. In that way, we can hope that Rag, Anuga, greed will come. So was this not Prabhupada's formula? Sure was. Yeah. And he knew perfectly well. And we experienced it directly. Yeah. How by being engaged in that way, in Vaidhi, sadhana bhakti, and in preaching, and so forth, so much progress was made. But the real progress is what we are longing for to happen to us in some distant future day. And what is that? Lobha. Greed will come. It will come, it must come. I'm sure that many of us have the seeds of that in our hearts, planted by especially Srila Gurudev in his Katha. It's there, otherwise we wouldn't be reading this book. I understand that to be the fact. We would not be reading this book. We would not even be attempting to read this book if some, at least seed, of greed was not coming to some extent. So in that way, Raghunath Das Goswami, he's praying, and in our last 15-20 minutes, we'll read the next verse, verse 24, which also has 3 pages, 4.5 pages of commentary. So we'll read part of this at least. Ready for the 24th verse? Okay. Subhaga mrigamadhe nakanda subramshu vatte tilakam ihalalate devi modad vidaya mashrinya gushrina charcham arpayatva chagatre stana yugamapi gandhais chiritram kim karishye. Okay, I see what the meter is. Subhaga mrigama dena kanda subramshu. Yeah, sometimes they make a mistake in terms of putting a couple of words from the next line up at the first line. So that's sometimes. Okay, this verse, Raghunath Das Goswami is praying, O Devi, when will I happily place beautiful musk tilak on your forehead, which is as splendid as the full moon, glistening kumkum on your limbs, and wonderful pictures and designs in fragrant colors on your breasts. Can repeat. Subhaga, mrigama, denakanda, subramshu, vatte, tilakam, iha, lalate, devi, modad, vidhaya, mashrina, gushrina, charcham, arpayatva, chagatre, stana yugam, api, Gandaish. Chiritram. No, sorry. Chitritam. Chitritam. Kim Karishi. Kim Karishi means, when will I do such service? Can repeat. O Devi, when will I happily place, so wait. O Devi, when will I happily place beautiful musk tilak on your forehead, which is as splendid as the full moon? And next item, glistening kumkum on your limbs. And the third, wonderful pictures and designs in fragrant colors on your breasts. So he wants to put beautiful musk tilak on her forehead, then on her splendid forehead, which is as splendid as the full moon. Then he wants to put glistening kumkum on her limbs and wonderful pictures and designs in fragrant colors on your breasts. There's a famous pastime that we've heard many times. In Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, when, Krishna starts to narrate the activities of the previous night, and Srimati Radhika becomes embarrassed. And while he's doing that, he paints dolphins on Srimati Radhika's breasts. So now, Srila Gurudev's commentary. Here, Raghunath Das Goswami is praying in his eternal Swarup as Tulsi Manjari, who is a prana Saki. She is Svapaksha and Radha Snehadika. That is, she has more affection for Radhika than for Krishna. Tulsi Manjari always resides with Srimati Radhika. Always. Tulsi Manjari is always residing with Srimati Radhika. And she never desires the company of those who are vipaksha, inimical to Radhika. Because in Braj, they have to have parties to stir the rasa. Tulsi Manjari prays, O Devi, when will I have the fortune that I will decorate your forehead with tilak made from musk and adorn the partition in your hair with a line of vermilion? So I just want to say, we are directly hearing pastimes of the Braja Gopis and the Manjaris and the chief of all of them, and also of all the different types of Sakis. We're hearing this, the whole background of Vraj Lila, which has all these different types of personalities and all their different moods towards Radha and Krishna, right? And it's very interesting that Srila Prabhupada, in the heyday of the book distribution, when he could see that his disciples, especially these Westerners, they like to compete. They get really serious. Because Westerners are coming from Kshatriya lines, from the European, which came originally from the Kshatriyas that were driven out of India. By who? By Parasuram, right? So our bloodlines come from those Kshatriyas. Prabhupada mentioned this many times. And so Prabhupada understood that, like Kshatriyas, they become very competitive, right? And even in sports and so forth, look at even like the gambling match of Maharaj Yudhishthira, So anyway, Srila Prabhupada, in seeing that, like we're talking about 1970, 71, when it was just beginning, like sprouting, this book distribution capabilities of the disciples and their tendency to distribute the books. And then it just started to take off in 71, and here on the West Coast especially. And you were there to witness all of this, right? And so Srila Prabhupada is corresponding all during this time with his disciples who are writing so many questions to him. That's when the plain clothes, wearing regular Western dress, and then even wearing wigs and so forth to go out into the public and to go to airports and all of that. So that all started around 71, 72. In 1970 to 71, chanting on the streets, non-stop, every day.
Back to Godhead.
6 hours a day, yeah. And Back to Godhead magazines to people watching. We carried an occasional teachings of Lord Chaitanya, but we were never really able to sell it to anyone, right? So then the whole thing started out, and Prabhupada could see that, wow, because, I remember when in 1970, in Detroit, in Chicago, the small little storefront, we had piles of books, big books, that were not getting distributed. So Srila Prabhupada, I don't know, Krishna did some magic, and then the Western devotees suddenly got this impetus and this inspiration and this kind of courage and boldness. And, those who were a little bit extrovert especially, they could do that, and they went out. And I remember hearing of, what's his name? No, not Manibandha. He was also there, but the main one, come on.
Oh, Keshava was the temple.
No, Keshava, and who else? There's
Buddhimanta.
Buddhimanta, that's the one. So Buddhimanta, we heard. We got letters, and we're hearing about what's going on in the West Coast. I want you to tell, but I'm just introducing the topic. Buddhimanta suddenly got inspiration, this is what we heard, and he took like a box of Krishna books on his shoulder and just started going in the suburban area from door to door with the whole box of books, puts it down in front of the door, rings the doorbell. And in this way, they began to sell these books, right? So what were you going to say? Can you say it in the microphone? Rishabdev Prabhu was actually there, and he was temple president of the Laguna Beach Temple, and for some time up in the Bay Area in San Francisco and so forth.
Yes, so that actually happened in December 71. And Keshava Prabhu, my friend and temple president at the time, they had run out of Back to Godhead magazines.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, so it really was. He admitted all this. He said, actually, it was 2 Siddha Shrup devotees who said, well, let us just take out, so many Krishna books are here. We'll just take that out. And Keshava said, but you'll rip up the covers, they'll get messed up. He said, just let us try. And so they took them out, and they distributed them all.
Do you remember who they were, those 2?
One was a Filipino devotee. I forget his name. But Keshava, saw that, and Buddhimanta was there, and they immediately, because he brought back all this money from the books, and they just immediately thought, well, we can do this. And Buddhimanta...
Well, how many books did they actually distribute?
They took out a box or 2 of Krishna books, but they distributed all of them.
Wow, okay.
And this was just on the Harinam Sankirtan.
Yeah.
So when Keshava saw that and Buddhimanta saw that, they said, they just exploded with ideas. And Buddhimanta would go door to door, as you're saying, with the box. He'd ring the doorbell. When the person would come down to the door, he was a tall person.
Buddhimanta.
He would get on his knees.
Oh my God.
And they weren't fake. Yeah. They were true tears. Came to his eyes.
Oh my God.
And he just begged them to take this book. And they were just so overwhelmed by this person. They said, okay, maybe just get rid of whatever. Okay. And they would give him the money. And so Keshava then thought, let's really go big. And that's when
He was the temple president at that time in
Yes.
San Francisco.
And that's when he thought, let's take Sankirtan parties.
You were in San Francisco
I
at
was
that time
in
when that
Laguna.
happened. Oh, you were in Laguna.
I was in Laguna, so
You were hearing about it.
yes.
Okay.
And then he decided, because they started going everywhere in the Bay Area, that they would just take out vans full of brahmacharis and books and just concentrate on this. And that's why I was brought up to San Francisco. To,
Right, because they wanted to go traveling. Yeah. That's a pretty amazing story. That little detail changes things a bit. You know, there's the Siddha Swarups, two people, you know, and they just like innocently took it out on the chanting party even.
Right, yes.
Not going door to door.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Keisha was saying, but you'll rip the covers, you
Uh-huh.
know, and
Right.
everything gets messed up. But let's try.
Yeah, yeah.
And they-
Wow. So, as you will remember, that kind of set on fire. It spread all across America to New York. I heard that Pansaduta was in New York and he got really fired up. And so gradually, during that period of early 71, right? Or was it?
That would
Yeah,
have been early 72 because it was at Christmas time
of 71.
of 71 that they ran out of Bhakti Gayas.
I remember now.
And then
Because I was in a temple that they had just opened up in Wisconsin, in Madison, in the college town, university town, and who was there? Bahulasva was there. That was after he had already been the temple president in Chicago, you know. And for some brief time, they closed down that preaching center in Chicago. Then he opened up in Madison, Wisconsin. And I remember it was there that we started hearing about this. This was in the dead of winter, snow all around, and we were still going out and chanting, you know. And that's when we first got that news about how they were distributing the books, right? So yeah, Bhagavan also tried to consolidate temples during that time, which Prabhupada didn't like. He closed down a few temples so that we'd all be in Detroit together. And then Bhagavan started sending all of us out just on book distribution, without a chanting party. That was the first time, you know. And those of us who had already done chanting on the streets for like a year and a half already, you know, it was quite an adjustment to just be sent out in front of a supermarket door that's opening and closing with incense, because then they introduced the paraphernalia that started then, stick of incense, you know, give it to somebody. So like that. So as this whole phenomena was manifesting, you know, Srila Prabhupada is getting all these reports, and you remember how many comments he was making of how this is increasing my life. This is giving me new life, you know, to hear these book distribution reports. What an amazing thing it must have been for Srila Prabhupada, you know, that suddenly this whole shift took place where now his books, and Prabhupada didn't let up. Remember, for all the remaining years, he kept on saying, double the book distribution, double it, you know. And he was on the temple presidents, and then all the money being remitted to the BBT and the building of his temples in India and all of that, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I remember in that quite early period where devotees were telling Prabhupada about how they're having a competition between, maybe it was LA and San Francisco, you know.
he would even say, I'll come to the temple that distributes the most books.
Right. Yeah, he would say. Yeah, Prabhupada would say that. And, but I remember hearing Srila Prabhupada, it became a very famous quote, that this book distribution and this mood that you are doing, this book distribution is, in this mood of competitive mood, actually this is the mood of the gopis. Remember that? Yes. This book distribution is in the mood of the gopis. So at that time, we didn't know much at all about that, but nevertheless, Prabhupada was giving this little bit of meditation about the gopis, how to please Krishna. And Prabhupada, he also gave a bit more, elaboration, how that mood has no envy, but nevertheless, they're, competing with one another for Krishna. And so now we get to hear the actual details from Raghunath Das Goswami of how that mood, your Gurudev is saying, he was saying that Raghunath Das Goswami is praying in his eternal Swarup as Tulsi Manjari, who is a Pranasaki. And she, Tulsi Manjari, is Swapaksha, right? That means completely with Radhika. And Radha Snehadika, she has more affection for Radhika than for Krishna. Tulsi Manjari always resides with Srimati Radhika, and she never desires the company of those who are Vipaksha, inimical to Radhika. Right? So whose camp is that? Yes. So Tulsi Manjari prays, O Devi, when will I have the fortune that I will decorate your forehead with tilak, made from musk, and adorn the partition in your hair with a line of vermilion? So previously Raghunath Das Goswami was residing in Jagannath Puri with Swarup Damodar and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by always hearing from them and serving them, an intense greed to become a Radha Dasi arose in him. By the association of that kind of Rasika Vaishnava, by hearing and remembering, this greed becomes so deep, like a Stayi Bhav, and it can never be changed in any way. And after that, he follows internally and externally. So as this greed increased more and more, he realized his specific identity as Tulsi Manjari, with a Stayi Bhav, a permanent sentiment which can never be changed in any way. Then he performed Rag Anuga Bhakti both internally and externally. And when Mahaprabhu went in Aprakat Lila, Raghunath Das Goswami rested only on Swarup Damodar. And he was always bitterly weeping for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He stopped taking Mahaprasadam. But although Mahaprabhu had disappeared from his external vision, Swarup Damodar was there to console him. And soon afterwards, Swarup Damodar also left this world. And then Raghunath Das became quite helpless. He gave up drinking water. He even desired to leave his life. But instead he took shelter of who? Gadadhar Pandit, who himself was always crying in separation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with a Radha Bhav for Krishna. Soon Gadadhar Pandit also left this world, and then there was no one left to console Raghunath Das Goswami. He decided to go to Vrindavan and to give up his life by jumping from Govardhan or drowning in the Yamuna River. Then after arriving in Mathura, he proceeded to Vrindavan, where he fell at the feet of Rupa and Sanatan and wept bitterly. They both tried to console him as their younger brother, and they advised him to always reside at Radhakund. And after some time, Sanatan Goswami also disappeared. And Raghunath Das Goswami's condition was like that of a man who is stranded in the ocean, and everything which he grabs onto simply sinks. Now only Rupa Goswami remained to console Raghunath Das Goswami, who was always absorbed in weeping and chanting Harinam and remembering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in the mood of Radhika, feeling separation from Krishna, such as how he would rub his face on the wall in the Gambhira and exhibit Ashta Sattvic Bhav. Now, Raghunath Das Goswami had left everything, but Rupa Goswami requested him to maintain his life, so he used to take a very small amount of buttermilk every day. Then comes a pastime we'll read tomorrow. What incredible nectar. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad Ki Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad Ki Jai. Sri Sanatana Goswami Pad Ki Jai. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami Pad Ki Jai. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Ki Jai. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sri Braj Mandala Ki Jai. Sri Radha Kunda Ki Jai. Yamuna Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Gurudeva Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe. Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Vinod Hari, Radha Vinod Hari Radhe. Jaya Radha Vinod Hari, Radha Vinod Hari Radhe. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini, Radhe Radhe. Vrishabhanu Nandini, Radhe Radhe. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini, Radhe Radhe. Vrishabhanu Nandini, Radhe Radhe. Jaya Kanumana Mohini, Radhe Radhe, Kanu Manamohini, Radhe Radhe,
Jaya Kanu Manamohini,
Radhe Radhe, Kanu Manamohini, Maya. Jaya Ashtashaki Shiromani, Radhe Radhe, Ashtashaki Shiromani, Radhe Radhe.
Jaya Ashtashaki Shiromani, Radhe Radhe, Jaya Ashtashaki Shiromani, Radhe Radhe.
Jaya Govinda Nandini, Radhe Radhe, Govinda Nandini, Radhe Radhe.
Jaya Govinda Nandini, Radhe Radhe, Govinda Nandini, Radhe Radhe.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe,
Jaya Radhe,
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Sachini Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hari,
Jaya Sachi
Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hari,
Jaya Sachi Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hari.
Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He,
Gaura
He,
He,
Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Nitai 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 Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur, Hari Bol,
Nitai Hari
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari
Bol. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Jai Dandavat Padam.